Welcome, dear brothers, to the Midweek Meeting. And this week, for the week of August 27 to August 2nd, we will be studying the activity guide for the Christian Life and Ministry Meeting. In Treasures from God's Word, we will be analyzing a very interesting topic. Do you know what it is? Do you? He preached with courage. Who? Jeremiah. We are going to learn very valuable lessons that Jeremiah also learned, which helped him to face the challenges of his time and how they can also help us to face the challenges we currently face. Now, in digging for spiritual gems, we will also be answering a very important question. What does the verse at Jeremiah 20:12 encourage us to do? Interesting. And the entire congregation is also invited to participate in digging for spiritual gems. What gems have you found? You can also participate with the whole congregation by giving comments. In applying yourself to the field ministry, we will cover starting conversations, how to make return visits, and how to explain your beliefs. And when we finish that part, we will move on to our Christian life. We will be discussing how we can be adaptable and how we can show interest in people's. And in the Congregation Bible Study, we will be analyzing the introduction to section 1. And we will be looking at the timeline and chapter 1 of the Congregation Bible Study. All of you are invited. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit like, and you can share it with other brothers. And remember that this meeting does not replace the meeting held in all congregations worldwide. It is just a meeting as a help for you. So let's begin and enjoy this spiritual banquet.
So if you were picking a theme for tonight's meeting, you may have picked preaching, as the first two songs of our meeting are going to centre around preaching. And through the meeting, see if you can look for points that help us to overcome discouragement, to be adaptable. And even in the congregation study, we have Enoch's example of boldness and courage, but really importantly too, how Jehovah supported him and how he would have felt his approval. And so it's the same for us today. Well, let's get right into things. We start with the treasures and looking at Jeremiah. He was a bold preacher. So we invite Brother Kim to the platform. Thank you.
Jeremiah is well known as the bold and courageous preacher. Please look at the picture. Can you see how confidently and firmly Jeremiah is delivering Jehovah's message? Because Jeremiah faithfully proclaimed Jehovah's judgment, he was despised and ridiculed and opposed by the people he met day after day. He was even beaten by priests, pursued and put in the stock. Yet Jeremiah endured all these trials faithfully. However, even Jeremiah had a moment when he became discouraged. Notice what he said. Please open your Bible and read together. Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 9. Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 9. So I said, I'm not going to make a mention of him, and I will speak no more in his name. Jeremiah became so discouraged that he felt he could no longer speak about Jehovah. He did all of the persecution endured, but he said, I'm not going to tell any more about Jehovah. But interestingly, this happened after Jeremiah had already carried out his assignment for about 20 years later. So after faithfully carrying out his assignment for many, many years, Jeremiah still experienced moments of the discouragement. How did he feel that way? Why did he feel that way? Perhaps that was not the only reason because he faced the persecutions. Watchdog publication explained that he may have felt that his natural abilities and personality were not enough to fulfill his assignment. Jeremiah even described himself as only a boy. I can't speak, feeling that he was inexperienced and not capable enough for his assignment. So when we put all of this information together, we see that Jeremiah was a faithful prophet, but at the same time, he struggled with the feeling of inadequacy and the lack of the confidence. What can we learn from his experience and his feelings? Brothers and sisters, in some ways, all of us can relate to him. None of us can serve Jehovah successfully simply because of our natural ability or personality. Whether it is a give a talk, demonstration on the platform, participating in the congregation meeting, starting conversation at the door in the ministry, making written visit or conducting Bible studies, we may sometimes feel that these responsibilities do not match our natural ability. Do you have a similar feeling like that? Sometimes I do. The giving talk in the second language is not easy to me. But we may feel that courage and boldness are far from our natural qualities. So how did Jeremiah overcome his limitation and endure the persecution he faced and become such a bold preacher? Please open your Bible again. Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 9. We're going to read the second part. Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 9. But in my heart, it became like a burning fire shut up in my bones. And I was tired of the holding in it. I could no longer enjoy it. Jeremiah wanted to stop speaking Jehovah's message, but he could not. Do you know why? Because he loved Jehovah. He loved the truth, and he loved the people. So he cannot stop preaching work. How did Jehovah support and help him? Please open up the Bible again. We're going to read the verse 11. Chapter 20, verse 11. But Jehovah was with me like a fearsome warrior. That is why those persecuting me will stumble and will not prevail. They will be put to great shame, but they will not succeed. Their everlasting humiliation will not be forgotten. As we just read, Jesus stood beside of the Jeremiah like a mighty warrior and gave him the strength and become bold preachers. In the end, Jeremiah faithfully carried out his assignment for over 65 years. He in prison again, and he had to endure the 2 years. So consequently, he complete the work that Jehovah had gave him. So he did faithfully believe the Jehovah and follow the Jehovah. Brothers and sisters, our success in the serving Jehovah does not depend on our natural ability, but on our willingness to rely on Jehovah is most important. Let's ask ourselves more frankly, do we believe that Jehovah can help us and train us to become a bold preacher like Jeremiah? Of course, yes. Jehovah can train anyone, but we need willingness. Without willingness, Jehovah can't help, can't train, isn't it? The boldness does not mean that we never feel fear. It means that our love for Jehovah and our trust in Him are stronger than our fear, like Jeremiah. Jesus does not choose us because we already have all the ability needs to accomplish our ministry, nor does He choose us because we never experienced moments of discouragement. Instead, He lovingly trains and strengthens us, helping us to become the kind of the people, kind of servant He wants us to be. And brothers and sisters, think about what we have already accomplished with Jehovah's help. Many of us have faced a situation that once seems beyond our abilities. We have stepped out from our comfort zones and accepted the responsibilities and shared the good news with others. And we did endure, even though we have difficult times. So Jehovah helped us in past. What does that mean? Jehovah will help us to our future as well. Brothers and sisters, if we face persecution like Jeremiah, we can endure it. We can do, but we do not allow fear to overcome us. Please never allow fear to become greater than our love for Jehovah. Be confident that with the Jehovah's strength and support, we can endure and become a bold preacher like Jeremiah.
Very much. Thank you very much, Brother Jun, not only for the lovely teaching and the treasures there, but your fine example and in showing courage with the second language. We appreciate it in your uncomfortable zone. So we appreciate it. Now we have Brother Dominic Doden. He's going to look after the spiritual gems we can all have a share in. Thanks, Brother Doden.
All right, we look forward, but you have collected this week from Jeremiah 20 and 21. Let's start with the first question by reading Jeremiah 20:12, and we invite a volunteer for the reading. Sister Rankin, please. Thank you.
But you, O Jehovah of armies, are examining the righteous one. You see the innermost thoughts and the heart. Let me see your vengeance on them, for to you I have committed my legal case.
Thank you. Well read. Question asked, what does this verse motivate us to do? Sister Labraga, please.
Well, the verse mentions that Jehovah is examining the righteous ones. So knowing this, we should be constantly checking ourselves and correct any attitude, tendency, or deep feelings that we might have, and that might put in jeopardy our good standing with Jehovah.
That's right. Thank you. Father Barnier.
Yeah, the Watchtower of 2013 commented to interesting expression. We have a figurative heart. It says at times we may actually have to perform figurative heart surgery on ourselves. So when we think of heart surgery, we would think of something that's serious. So at times things could be serious, and we need to take serious action to help ourselves and make ourselves better when it comes to our figurative heart.
That's right. All right, that's well covered. Thank you, brothers. Let's pass to the second question now. What spiritual gems from this week's Bible reading would you like to share? Sister Ibanez, please.
Are faithful servants of Jehovah immune to depression? Jeremiah's expressions in chapter 20, verse 14 to 18 clearly express this as the lowest point in his life. And the Latin notes tie almost every line here to Job, another faithful man who felt the very same way. So this tells me something important. Feeling this low is not a sign that a person has failed spiritually. Two of the most loyal servants in the Bible were both there. And if we have to notice, Jeremiah pours it all out to Jehovah in prayer. He never cursed God, and he never quit. So Jehovah didn't rebuke him. He kept using him for decades more. So if a brother or sister ever feels this crushed, this account is proof that Jehovah doesn't give up on them. Jehovah considers all of us precious. And as Psalms 34 verse 18 says, he is close to those that are brokenhearted.
Very true. Thank you. Sister Kreider, please.
In chapter 21 verse 8, we see that even at the last hour, Jehovah gave the unrepentant people of Jerusalem who deserved to die this particular choice. He said, here I am putting before you the way of life and the way of death. This shows us that Jehovah's mercy is limitless, and even in the future, right till the very end, he will extend his mercy to those who have a change of heart. So how blessed we are to serve such a loving God.
Very true. Thank you. Sister Cox, please.
In Jeremiah 21:9, he was given instruction from Jehovah that God would turn away from the people and against them, but that all those who remained loyal through obedience would be saved. And their obedience would be that if they remained in the city and tried to fortify it or defend it, they would die. But he said rather whoever goes out and surrenders would keep living. So that request would have seemed very incredibly difficult to understand and for them to follow. It likely didn't make any sense from their perspective, especially if they were expecting a miracle from God. So this situation reminded me of times either previously or what we have yet to experience, where direction may seem hard to understand, but with complete trust in Jehovah and his representatives, if we listen, obey, and we truly will be blessed.
Very true. Obedience is the key and remains the key. Sister Bizenelli, please.
Yeah, like Jeremiah, we too bear an unpopular message. It's the same message for which Jesus was despised. So let us not tremble at men, but like Jeremiah, let us courageously obey Jehovah, trusting fully in him.
So true. Sister Simon, please.
In Jeremiah 20, verse 7, in part it says, "You have fooled me, O Jehovah, and I was fooled. You used your strength against me, and you prevailed." Jehovah wasn't being cruel here. He fooled Jeremiah in a positive and beneficial sense. Since Jeremiah felt he couldn't continue because of the opposition, Jehovah then overpowered his human inclination so that Jeremiah was fooled, as it were, and continued to preach, fulfilling his assignment despite how he was feeling. And this, of course, gives us confidence that when we face opposition, Jehovah can fill us with power like Jeremiah so that we can be strengthened and keep going.
Yeah, great lessons from these famous words from Jeremiah. Sister Kim, please.
I also looked into the same scripture, and some ridicules and attacks can come from oneself, because some of us suffer from low self-esteem or lack of confidence and so much more. But as Jehovah used his strength against Jeremiah's human inclination, we can let God fool us as well.
Thank you for that. Brother McLean.
Yeah, just further on Jeremiah 20:14 to 16, when Jeremiah was going through a moody patch in his life and he was able to gain comfort from Jehovah. It's the same for us today. There's keys that we can use to, if there's different areas in our life, if we have ups or downs. The Jeremiah publication, God's Word through Jeremiah, made a couple of points for us to keep in mind, keys to help us to remain balanced. It says that it's important that we maintain our attendance at Christian meetings and our regular share in theocratic activities. And it mentions these are the keys to staying balanced and having joy in serving Jehovah. And it quoted Matthew 5:3, which we all know well, happy are those conscious of their spiritual needs. So it's not going to make these things go away, but we can see that these are vital for us to keep our joy in serving Jehovah.
So true. Importance of spiritual routine. Let's go on Zoom now. We'll have Brother Finney first. Thank you.
Yes, we notice that Jeremiah became a good example for all Christians not to give up under persecution. We notice what it says in verse 2 of chapter 20. Then Pasha struck Jeremiah the prophet and put him into the stocks that were in the upper gate of Benjamin, which was in the house of Jehovah. So Jeremiah then was ridiculed, being in the stocks for one night, but in a prominent place, so people could just look at him, and he wasn't very happy at all. But then, under Jehovah's direction, Jeremiah foretells the captivity of Pasha and his death in Babylon. We might say that Pasha won round one in this fight, but Jeremiah and Jehovah, with the activity of Jehovah for all people who do things against his will, ended up winning the whole battle after that because of the wrong activity of Pasha.
Yeah, great lessons. We go to the Gonzalez family as well on Zoom, please.
In Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 2, we can see that King Zedekiah ignored Jehovah's counsel for years. But we can read, he said in the chapter 2, he said, "Please inquire of Jehovah in our behalf." So we can see that he turned to Jehovah desperately when the enemy was at the city gates. So this gem reminds us of the importance of cultivating a constant friendship with Jehovah in times of peace, so that our faith will be strong when difficulties come, and we can face any hardships with Jehovah's support.
That's true. Now is the right time. Well, we thank you all participants for your comments. We hand back the meeting to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Brother Don. Now we have our Bible reading. So it's taken from Jeremiah 20, verse 7 to 18, and Brother Valera is going to handle that for us. Thanks, Brother Alberto.
You have pulled me, O Jehovah, and I was pulled. You used your strength against me, and you prevailed. I have become a laughing stock all day long. Everyone ridicules me. For whenever I speak, I must cry out and proclaim violence and destruction. For me, the word of Jehovah has been the cause of insults, enduring all day long. So I said, I'm not going to make mention of him, and I will speak no more in his name. But in my heart, it became like a burning fire, shut up in my bones. And I was tired of holding it in. I could no longer endure it. For I heard many evil rumors. Terror surrounded me. Denounce him. Let us denounce him. Every man wishing me peace was watching for my downfall. Perhaps he will make a foolish mistake, and we can prevail and take our revenge against him. But Jehovah was with me, like a fearsome warrior. That is why those persecuting me will stumble and will not prevail. They will be put to great shame, for they will not succeed. Their everlasting humiliation will not be forgotten. But you, O Jehovah of armies, are examining the righteous one. You see the innermost thoughts and the heart. Let me see your vengeance on them. For to you I have committed my legal case. Sing to Jehovah, praise Jehovah, for he has rescued the poor one from the land of evildoers. Cursed be the day I was born. May the day my mother gave birth to me be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought good news to my father, saying, a son has been born to you, a boy, making him rejoice greatly. May that man become like a city that Jehovah overthrew without regret. May he hear an outcry in the morning and the sound of alarm at midday. Why did he not put me to the death in the womb, so that my mother will become my burial place, and her womb would always remain pregnant? Why did I have to come out of the womb to see the trouble grip, to end my days in shame?
Thank you very much, Brother Alberto. That was very well done. So you're working on, we can look at study 2, conversational manner, which says to be natural, sincere, and conveys how you feel. So not always easy to do when we're doing a reading. And so some of the things that you did really well, no doubt you prepared well. And the reason I could see you'd prepared well is because of your eye contact. And that's really hard sometimes when we're reading the Bible to be able to look up. You looked around the audience in regular intervals, gestures too, when it talked about the heart. So that was very nice. So it made it natural, and it was also focusing on the audience, which was one of the points brought out as well. We want to focus when we teach, and we teach when we read, we want to focus on our listeners. So well done. Thanks very much. So now we move into the apply yourself to the field ministry part of our meeting, starting a conversation. So this is informal witnessing. Find a natural way to let the person know that you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So we're going to see how Brother Papa does this.
I can't believe I missed my train. This is the worst time for it.
Excuse me, was that your train?
Yeah, that was my train, and it was the one that I had to catch because I have a very important job interview.
Oh no, sorry to hear that. Where are you heading?
Just towards the city. It's a small retail job, but it took me forever to get it.
The city? Couldn't you find anything closer to home?
Yeah, well, I've tried to find work close to home, but it's always the same thing. We're not hiring at the moment, or like we'll put your resume on the file. And the waiting is the worst part, let alone the interviews itself.
Yeah, I hear that. I am about to finish school, and I am absolutely not looking forward to the interviews at all. How many interviews have you had, may I ask?
Well, this is my 5th one, and I hope it's the last.
So, with having so many interviews, would you have any advice for someone finishing school soon?
I wish I could give you some advice, but I don't think I have any since all my interviews haven't worked out. And honestly, I'm kind of running out of hope. Sorry, am I opening up way too much to a stranger? My name's Ellie, by the way.
I'm Denzel. It's nice to meet you, Ellie. You know, something very similar happened to me at school with my exams because my bus got caught up in traffic and I was late, and it was an automatic failure. What helped me afterward was learning how to stop worrying about things I couldn't control.
Really? How do you manage that?
I read something in Awake magazine, November 1st, 2020. It talked about handling stress and staying focused on one day at a time.
Okay, Awake? I've never heard of that.
It's a practical magazine. One of the articles is titled, How to Deal with Stress. And in this section, try to live one day at a time. The article quotes a Bible verse that Jesus said. Would you like to read that verse?
Yeah, sure. It says, never be anxious about the next day, for the next day will have its own anxieties. Oh, that actually makes sense. I didn't realize people read the Bible these days.
Yes, it is very practical. The article provides useful suggestions as well as the meaning of each of the verses in this article.
Oh, that sounds really helpful. Where can I find these articles?
Oh, excellent question. I have a card here that directs you to our website, jw.org. You can find that Awake article there, plus other stuff about stress. My contact's on the back if you ever want to talk again.
Yeah, thanks, Enzo. I'll check it out.
Looks like my trainer's coming. Anyway, I hope the job interview goes well. And hey, maybe next time we'll both catch our trains on the exact same time.
Yeah, hopefully. See you around.
Very well done, brothers. That was excellent. Excellent, Denzel. That was a lovely setting too. I really enjoyed that. Hopefully that's not a glimpse into the future where you're catching trains to interviews, etc. But very nicely done, very natural. You introduced the card and that says that we're Jehovah's Witnesses. So it was a natural conversation, and that is what we're aiming for. So very well done. Really enjoyed that, Denzel. One little technical tip, and it's not a law, but it is helpful. For the chairman, when you're giving a talk, when you're the one that's giving the talk, if you could sit on the other side, it's easy to see you and your facial mannerisms and what you're working on. But it lost nothing this time round. So again, not a law, but it is helpful for the chairman, as Sister Lavanier has done, has sat in the hot seat. And so now we're looking at following up, house to house, share a truth from Appendix A of the Love People brochure. Thanks, Sister Katrufi.
Hi, Hong Yen. It's nice to see you again. How have you been?
Okay, I'm okay, thanks. But you know, Lavania, when I watching the news, I get very frightened by what I see. There seems to be a lot of hate and violence, and the government doesn't seem to be able to stop it. I'm really concerned for my boys and what their future will be.
I understand your concerns, Hong Yen, because what you just expressed to me, I can see that they are real concerns that you have. And you seem distressed about the situation, and I don't like to see you distressed like this. So while things seem to be bad, do you think that there could be an actual solution that we could put confidence in?
I would like to think there is, but I just can't see one.
Okay. I'd like to share something with you that can provide a positive hope for the future and a real and lasting solution to man's problems.
That would be lovely, but I don't think that is possible.
Okay, it might seem that way, but I know that you know the Lord's Prayer that Jesus taught his followers, and there was something that he told us to pray for that holds the solution. Let's have a look at the scripture in Matthew 6, verse 10. Can you please read that scripture, Hong Yan?
Okay. Let your kingdom come, let your will take place, as in heaven, also on earth.
Thanks. So what did Jesus teach us to pray for?
Is it your kingdom come?
Yes, that's correct.
But what does it mean?
Well, it's God's kingdom, so it's a kingdom or government from God, and he told us to pray for that kingdom. The Bible foretold that this kingdom or government will bring about a major change for all of us on earth. Let's read the scripture in Daniel 2 and verse 44. It says, in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, and his kingdom will not be passed on to any other people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, and it alone will stand forever. So, did you notice what God's kingdom will do?
Will you really replace governments by men?
Yes, and that kingdom will do far more than just that. Let me share one more scripture with you to explain, and that's in the last book of the Bible, Revelation 21 and verse 4. And this is part of a vision that was given to the Apostle John about the fulfillment of God's promises. It says there, and he will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain be any more. The former things have passed away. Can you imagine a future that looks like that, Hong Yen?
That sounds too good to be true.
It does. But notice in the very next verse, God says, write, for these words are faithful and true. So that's a guarantee or a promise from God that we can put trust in. I'd like to explain more about this kingdom. Would you like to do that next week?
Yes, lovely. I think I would.
Thank you very much, sisters. Very well done. So lovely a setting as well. And it was about listening. And that's what you did. You listened to what Sister Hong Lin said about what was worrying her and upsetting her about what was happening in the world. And then you used the section on the kingdom and did it excellently. So it just makes it simple. And that's what it is. We don't want to overcomplicate things. We want to use the brochure. It has these simple truths, but it helps us to get familiar with it and use these tools. So thank you very much, Sister Lavinia. I'm very much looking forward to this one because, let me see here, explaining your beliefs, demonstration. A child rehearses with one of his parents a report that he plans to give to his class based on the article. And now this is Sister Bethia, so I'm assuming Sister Cohen is the child. We look forward to this part.
Mom,
What is it?
in science class, I wanted to explain to my classmates about why we can believe that there's a creator for scientific report.
Why is that?
Well, because we learning about the topic of evolution, and this kid from my class, he pointed out that I was a witness, and now everyone in class is asking me why I believe that there's a creator but not in evolution. So I wanted to share my classmates some of the research that I did.
That sounds nice. So, how do you plan to say it?
I want to start by saying many wonder whether life was created or was it evolved. Although we're taught about evolution, we don't mostly speak aloud this question that some have at the back of their mind. Through this research that I did on how babies are conceived, it left an interesting thought. When you're conceived, you start from one tiny cell called the zygote, which is barely large enough to see with our own eyes. This cell is interesting because it has the ability to specialize.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, it means that they can create copies of its DNA and divide into two. They then do this process numerous of times. At first, the cells are basically all identical, but after 1 week of conception, these cells start to specialize into two kinds. Some cells become the embryo, while the others help the embryo to grow. And thanks to the DNA, they have the instructions to form into every type of cell. And I also want to talk about what happens in the 3rd week, which is when the embryo is organized into 3 layers. But I feel like explaining it would confuse some of my students.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe if you could use this picture. So it shows a clear illustration of the baby and where each of the layers the embryo will specialize into. This could help them visualize their layering better.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and it also makes the report more engaging. So how's the baby then fully developed?
Well, as the baby grows, the cells move into the correct type, in the correct location, and even at the correct time, with incredible coordination. When the baby is born, its hundreds of billions of cells have all specialized into over 200 different types of cells. From my research, we can observe how there's a creator. That's all.
That sounds good. Maybe we can finish up with a different tone and also by reflecting on your research.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, let's read Proverbs 3:21, the latter part there. Safeguard practical wisdom. Although knowing some information is important, but it's useless unless we apply them, right? So we can encourage the kids to also find answers to their questions about evolution, like through
JW.org.
Yeah, exactly. And finishing off with a question. This could also ease the tone, because when you say it shows that there is creator, some may immediately disagree without considering the research you just said. So what's a different conclusion you could finish off with?
Maybe I can say, from this research, we can see how incredible life is through how we observe how one single cell can do. Now, we can wonder whether the ability for cells to specialize evolved or was it designed. From the JW.org website, I was able to collect this information. And if you're also interested about evolution or other topics, you could also research them too.
Well done, Beth. Yeah, really good job. Good work.
Thanks, Mom, for the help.
No problem. Now, how about we ask Jehovah in prayer to help you with the assignment?
So what would I know? It was the other way around. Whoa, well done. Make a good mum, Sister Kim. That was excellent. That was very well put together, and it covered the main points there. So thinking about your listeners, that was going to be the class, but particularly that throughout your presentation, show your listeners what to do. And when we're teaching, that's a key part. We're not just imparting information, we're trying to make that information, that knowledge, now become wisdom. What's the practical side of it? And that's what you did in highlighting creation, but also where to go to find out more. So that was very well done. So really looking forward to your next part. Just again, a little technical thing, not a lot, took nothing away from it. But when you have images like you did in this one, don't be scared to ask the AV brothers. We don't want to introduce images, but when they're given to us, feel free to use them. So when you use that, particularly that's a great image, isn't it? The 3 layers, you could have had that up just for a moment as you talked about it, and you're just talking it here, but then the whole audience sees the same thing. But very well done, thank you. Okay, now we move into living as Christians, and to start us off, let's sing together Preaching to All Sorts of People, Song 57. Enjoy the next part. Be adaptable, show personal interest. Thanks, Brother McLean.
So if you're going out in the ministry this week or on the weekend, you probably want to say something to people, and you probably have probably already formulated or will formulate on the day what you would like to say to the person that you're going to speak to. And we're encouraged to do that, aren't we? In our Love People Make Disciples brochure, under the suggestions in interest in others, it says to be flexible. And one of the things it says is, don't insist on starting a conversation on a topic we had in mind. Start with something others are thinking about. So how do we know what others are thinking about? Well, we need to look at maybe what's in the news. What are they talking about in our local area, our co-workers or our classmates? What are they talking about? So we've got all these things in mind. We've formulated what we want to talk about, and we go to the door, and guess what? The householder doesn't want to talk about any of those things. So we have discerned that they don't want to talk about this. So what can we do? Well, let's have a look at a Bible account. Let's turn our Bibles to John chapter 9 and verse 1. And here we see Jesus. He's passing along. He sees a man who's been blind from birth. If we go down to verse 6 and 7, it says there, or it says what he did, the process he goes through to make the ground into a paste, rubs on the man's eyes, tells him what to do with it, and he goes off and does it. Then others ask, well, how did this happen to you? Everyone doesn't really want anything to do with him. But let's go down to verse 35 to 38 and see what the result of Jesus doing this is. So here Jesus has done an act of kindness. So it says, verse 35, Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, and on finding him, he said, are you putting faith in the Son of Man? The man answered, and who is he, sir, so that I may put faith in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and in fact, he is the one speaking with you. And what was the result? Verse 38, he said, I do put faith in him, Lord, and he did obeisance to him. So why did this happen? Well, Jesus here shared the good news with this man, but Jesus beforehand had showed him kindness. So what does this teach us? Well, We know Jesus had a lesson or a ministry, a message to teach, but first of all, to help reach that man's heart, Jesus showed personal interest. And that's really what we want to do, isn't it? When we go from door to door, we want to show personal interest. We know we have a message to talk to people about, but we can see from the greatest example there, Jesus, that showing that personal interest first and the result from that. Well, let's have a look at another example. Let's open our Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 20 to 23. Maybe we can get a reader for that. That's 1 Corinthians 9 and verse 20 to 23. Who'd like to read that for us? Thanks, Brother Khalil.
To the Jews I became as a Jew, in order to gain Jews. To those under law I became as under law, though I myself am not under law, in order to gain those under law. To those without law I became as without law, although I am not without law toward God, but under law toward Christ, in order to gain those without law. To the weak I became weak, in order to gain the weak. I have become all things to people of all sorts, that I may by all possible means save some. But I do all things for the sake of the good news, in order to share it with others.
Good. Thanks for that, Brother George. So let's ask some questions on that and see if we can get some points to really help us to see how we can show interest in others when it comes to the ministry. So how did Paul show that he cared about people? Thanks, Sister McLean.
As we see in the read scripture, Paul took an interest in people whose background was very different from his own. And by making the effort to find common ground, he showed how genuinely he cared about people.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Thanks, Sister Kreider.
The research guide on verse 23 mentioned that with this expression, Paul summarizes how he has adapted his approach in order to present his message effectively to a wide variety of people. So we see that Paul was flexible and tactful in trying to reach the hearts of people by taking into account their religious backgrounds and beliefs.
Excellent. Thanks, Sister Lim.
1 Corinthians 2:22 says, I have become all things to people of all sorts. So Paul showed that he cared about people by putting their spiritual need ahead of his own preferences. So he was willing to adapt his approach to people from different backgrounds so that they would feel comfortable listening to the good news. So Paul understood that sincere personal interest opens the heart to the good news, and this teaches us to think about each householder's situation and adapt our conversation so we are more likely to reach their heart.
Excellent. Thanks, Sister Lim. All right, well, let's ask the next question. The next question says, why did Paul make the effort to adapt his message? Thanks, Sister Cox.
Well, he repeatedly spoke about being adaptable so that the result would be that he could gain those ones. He mentioned he became all things to people of all sorts so that he might by all possible means save some, and that he did all those things for the sake of the good news to share what he knew with others. So he really understood the importance of the work he was involved in and how his being adaptable would either help him to better relate to those whom he met from various backgrounds and with various circumstances and specific individual needs.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that. Thanks, Brother Katrupi.
Yeah, we can tell from Paul's expression there that he obviously had come to the realisation that one way of teaching or expressing the truth wasn't going to really help as many people as he would have liked to. So he saw the need to be flexible, and we see the same thing in our territory too. We can't have the same conversation with every householder because probably 90% of them aren't interested in what we might speak to someone else about. So we need to find that commonality that we can then build on, so we can learn a lot from Paul's example.
Yeah. All right. That covers that nicely. Well, let's watch our video then. So we have a video, eager to declare the good news, be ready with the right equipment. And then we have some questions to ask after that. So nice video, but we have a couple of questions to go along with it. It says, although the brother had prepared a topic to start a conversation, how did he adapt to the situation? Thanks, Sister Cox.
Well, he noticed that the householder was carrying tools and was obviously busy, so he didn't insist on sharing his presentation or his reasons for the visit. He adapted and was willing to leave, but also showed he cared about the man's feelings, offering practical assistance in sharing what helped him to fix his own water heater, which the householder appreciated, so he was able to then relax and wanted to know the reason for their visit.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Sister Kreider.
I thought that the brother was very considerate actually and showed genuine friendliness, and this helped the household to see that he was genuinely interested in helping him without no ulterior motives.
Yeah. Thanks, Brother Nicholson.
And it was obvious in the video that he cared. They made that comment about we do care, but we've got to show. And sometimes nerves makes us focus on ourselves. But if we can focus on them, our natural caring will show.
Yeah, and our sister even brought that out in the comments, didn't she, at the start? She said to focus on who's behind the door and not, and yeah, rightly so. And what did this lead to? I think it was touched on. But what did it lead to? Thanks, Brother Arias. Don't wave.
Yeah, it led then to the conversation coming to with the purpose for the visit, because the man wanted to know why they were at the door. So what it really shows is that people, when we go from door to door, think we're there to convert them. And now, if we show that we care, we're more than just that.
Yeah, excellent. Why is it important to show that we care? Thanks, Sister Simone.
Well, this care and personal interest that they showed was, of course, then reflected back by the householder, prompting him to inquire about why they'd come. So it was an interchange of encouragement then.
Yeah. And Brother Simone?
Yeah, we imagine this fellow, he walked out of his door with real purpose, but then he bumps into the witnesses and what's going on here? I've got another interruption to my time and my, the things that I have to do around the house. So when that brother showed extreme consideration and showed real personal interest in the household, so much so to the point where he said, you go about your business, we'll go now. And that actually prompted the household to say, well, what's this all about? And so he, obviously, as Cindy mentioned, he was being shown consideration, so he reflected it right back. I often tell myself, I remembered reading a little saying, and it said that nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And that's an important thing to remember in the ministry.
Excellent. Thanks, Brother Simone. Thanks, Sister McCulloch.
Yes, the brother and sister prayed to Jehovah about this matter, about being concerned and caring about the householder when they went out, and so they were rewarded because they were able to share a message with them.
Yeah, positive message. Thanks, Brother Nicholson.
And we think of the two basic principles, love of God, love of neighbour. So we may really enjoy the ministry, but some of us may not. But we don't go out in the ministry for the love of the ministry. We go out in the ministry for the love of people. And that love of people, we want to let it show. And that if we let it show, we'll care.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So what then have we learnt tonight? Well, we've learnt that when we preach from house to house, it's important to imagine how the householder feels and demonstrate that personal interest. We follow the example of Jesus and the personal interest that he showed in the one, and then was able to witness to him as well. And if someone senses that we genuinely care, they're more likely to listen to our message. And we can see that nicely highlighted for us in our video. Let's hand back to our chairman.
Thank you very much, Brother Phil. That was lovely. Now we can all enjoy the congregation Bible study together, and to take us through that we have Brother Byneck. Thanks, Brother Gary.
So, last week we started this book, didn't we? Walk Courageously with God. And continuing on that tonight, we're going to look at, first of all, just a preview of the section, and then we're going to look at a chart, just very briefly, and then we'll look at our first chapter, chapter 1, all about Enoch and how he walked with God. So to begin tonight, Brother Gallo is doing the reading, so we'll just have him read what's in the preview.
In this section, we journey through a period of some 22 centuries. We start with Enoch, a patriarch who lived when Adam was still alive, and we come down to the time of the prophet Samuel, who appointed the first king of Israel. On the way, we consider such outstanding examples of courage as Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Moses, Rahab, Deborah, and Gideon. Some undertook long, hard journeys fraught with dangers, while others faced the daunting prospect of fighting in the wars of Jehovah. All of them showed courage as they fulfilled assignments from their beloved God.
Thank you. Thanks, Brother Eli. So we won't be discussing this, but it just simply gives us a preview of what we're looking at, and a pretty picture there of Abraham and Sarah and their household near the Euphrates River. So moving along, if we could have our brothers just put the timeline picture on the screen. And when you saw this, you may have thought, oh, this looks all very complicated, but this will help us with our study and future studies in this publication. Tonight we're looking at Enoch, so you can probably see where Enoch is in the stream of time. And when we get to understand the stream of time, it helps us to understand these examples and where they did live in relation to the stream of time in serving Jehovah. So we'll move on now to our first chapter, chapter 1, Enoch. He walked with God, and we'll be reading the first 2 pages. Thank you, Brother Eli.
Enoch knew what it meant to feel alone. He stood apart from the world of his day. He was the only man of his time whom the Bible describes in this way. Enoch kept walking with the true God. How is this possible for a mere human on the earth? And what can Enoch teach us today about courage? Enoch walked with the true God in at least 2 ways: in what he refused to do and in what he did. He refused to fit in with the ungodly world around him. His was the 7th generation from Adam and Eve. Adam was very old, but still alive. The rebellious spirit of mankind's first parents had spread throughout the human family. Their son Cain murdered his own brother Abel, the first man of faith. Some of Cain's descendants were just as vicious, if not more so. Enoch courageously refused to be influenced by the violent spirit of the times. He remained a man of peace, and this pleased God. A few generations before Enoch was born, people began calling on the name of Jehovah. It seems that they did this so in a blasphemous way, which amounted to false religion. Enoch refused to take part. He loved and revered Jehovah's sacred name, so he stood apart from his contemporaries. Enoch needed even more courage when he did what Jehovah asked him to do. God gave Enoch a special assignment, to act as a prophet. He was to deliver a message to people who were very different from him. This was the message. Look, Jehovah came with his holy myriads to execute judgment against all, and to convict all the ungodly concerning all their ungodly deeds that they did in an ungodly way, and concerning all the shocking things the ungodly sinners spoke against him. Notice that Enoch's prophecy was worded in the past tense, as if God's judgment were a historical event that had already taken place. That is how sure it was that Enoch's word would come true. And the message was a strong judgment. Enoch repeated the word ungodly 4 times. Those words surely stung the people who heard Enoch preaching. Yet he courageously told them about what Jehovah wanted them to hear. How did the people react? The Bible does not say exactly, but it strongly suggests that a time came when Enoch was in great danger. How so? We read, "Then he was no more, for God took him." What happened? It seems likely that Enoch was persecuted by the wicked people of his day. Instead of letting them hurt or murder Enoch, Jehovah lovingly transferred his dear friend from the dangers of life to the peaceful sleep of death. In that way, Enoch would remain safe in Jehovah's memory, where no one could harm him. First, though, Jehovah gave Enoch a special gift. We read, "Before Enoch was transferred, he received the witness that he had pleased God well." Perhaps Jehovah gave Enoch a vision about what lay ahead of him, a peaceful life in a paradise on earth. Before Enoch closed his eyes for the last time, he knew one thing, without question. Jehovah loved him and blessed him for showing strong faith and unshakable courage.
Thank you. Now, before we ask a question of the audience, we have some Bible verses to read, which we'll have Brother Gallo to read. So the first one is Genesis 5, verses 23 and 24, then Hebrews 11:5, and then Jude 14 and 15. So you'll see they're listed in our publication. The only one that's changed in Genesis, we're just reading verses 23 and 24. So we'll have Brother Gallo read those verses. Thank you.
So all the days of Enoch amounted to 365 years, Enoch kept walking with the true God. Then he was no more, for God took him. Hebrews 11 verse 5. By faith Enoch was transferred so as not to see death, and he was nowhere to be found, for because God had transferred him. For before he was transferred, he received the witness that he had pleased God well. Jude 14 verse 14 and 16. Yes, the seventh one in line from Adam, Enoch, also prophesied about them when he said, Look, Jehovah came with his holy myriads to execute judgment against all, and to convict all the ungodly concerning all the ungodly deeds that they did in an ungodly way, and concerning all the shocking things that ungodly sinners spoke against him.
Thank you. Thank you for your fine reading, Brother Gallo. And could we have the first picture up on the screen for this chapter? Thank you, brothers. So our question here for discussion, and when we think about discussion, we think about these verses we've looked at and also the material that we've read. It asks, in what ways did Enoch show courage? Thank you, Sister McLean.
Well, one way Enoch showed courage was the way he stood up for true worship. He was surrounded by false religion, yet he boldly proclaimed the name of Jehovah and delivered a message of judgment for the people's ungodly ways.
Thank you. And thank you, Sister Maurice.
So Enoch showed courage in two directions, in what he refused to do and in what he did. So he lived in a violent, God-dishonoring world, but he refused to be swept along by their ungodly spirit, and he wouldn't share in the false worship. But he didn't just stay quietly, he actively spoke out. Jehovah gave him a hard-hitting judgment message to deliver to people, which is very different from himself. And Enoch boldly proclaimed it, using the word ungodly 4 times. So it took courage to stand apart, and even more courage to speak up.
Thank you. And thank you, Sister Crider.
And there's no record of who else in Enoch's time was serving Jehovah. So he was either alone or part of a small minority. So it would have taken great courage to warn those ungodly, violent people about the coming destruction.
Thank you. And moving along then, because we have other sections we're going to look at to help us learn more about Enoch, we have next our Dig Deeper section. So question 1 in our Dig Deeper section is, how might people have begun calling on the name of Jehovah? Thank you, our brother. Thanks, Brother Jericho.
Since the beginning of human history, or 4 centuries before Enoch's time, people already started calling the name of Jehovah, but they seem to have done in a wrong or blasphemous way that amounted to false religion. Rather than genuine worship, this appears to have been misusing or applying God's name in an improper or even applied to his name to idols. But Enoch refused to join in this practice because he truly loved Jehovah, and that set him apart from his contemporaries.
Thank you. And moving along now to our next question, question 2 of Dig Deeper, it asks, Enoch was the first faithful human to do what? Thank you, Sister Hart.
To serve as the first faithful prophet of God.
Thank you. And the first prophet, and how was he able to fulfill his assignment? Thank you, Brother Arias.
Yeah, we know this was a very weighty assignment that he had to carry out in passing judgment, but it was not by his human strength that this was actually done. Enoch was courageous because this commission that was given to him assured him that Jehovah would provide him the courage to fulfill it.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Simone.
Yes, one of the references says that he had true faith and was exemplary in godly devotion. So he had faith, but he lived it as well.
Thank you. And before we move along to our next question, question 3, the AV brother said we can just have the next picture up on the screen. Thank you. So our third question asks, even before he started prophesying, why would Enoch have likely known that his courage would be put to the test? Thank you, Sister Simone.
Well, Jehovah had stated in Eden that enmity would exist between those who serve God and those who serve Satan the devil. Enoch, knowing about Cain killing Abel, was aware that this hatred had already erupted.
Thank you. And when we think of the picture, what does that help us with? Thank you, Brother Katrupi.
So we're, I think, 7 in line from Adam here. So Enoch is well aware of all that's transpired before him, and he's eyewitnessing what's occurring in his own time, how people are acting in a profane way towards Jehovah. And he was a man of righteousness who desired to love and serve God. So he could see that he was at odds with the world at that time. So no doubt he knew up front that he was going to have a difficult time of this.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Nicholson.
So we can see too, this is where the timeline is useful, referring back to it. So you look at it, you see Adam. Now we can clearly see how much Enoch overlaps Adam. So he's right there at the beginning of history. Adam's rebelled. He may have even spoke to Adam, who rebelled against God. And so he would have witnessed all of these terrible things. And so right from the beginning, as Sister Kreider brought out before, instead of anyone turning to Jehovah, they're all turning away from him. So what a faithful man Enoch was.
Thank you. And thank you, Sister Miraz.
Yep, just adding to that, Adam himself lived for nearly 310 years after Enoch was born. So that history is fresh, and yeah, they might have spoken about what happened there. And knowing all this, Enoch could reasonably expect that taking a stand for true worship would make him a target, but he did it anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for your fine comment. Well, moving along to our next question in Dig Deeper section. It asks, how could you show that Enoch was not taken to heaven as some believe? Thank you, Sister Daisy.
John 3:13 says, "Moreover, no man has ascended into heaven but the one who descended from heaven, the Son of Man." So this scripture shows that Enoch didn't go to heaven because it was written by John after Enoch had died. So Enoch did not go to heaven as only Jesus has.
Thank you. That's very good. And thank you, Sister Lim.
In Hebrew 11:5, Enoch was transferred so as not to see death, which may means that God put him in a prophetic trance and then terminate Enoch's life while he was in the trance, so that he did not experience the pangs of death.
Thank you. And thank you, our sister here.
Yeah, also, it seems that Jehovah also took care of Enoch's body, just as he did with Moses' body, because no one could find him, as stated in Deuteronomy 34:5-6.
Thank you, Sister. And the verse in Hebrews 11, verse 13. Hebrews 11, we know, talks about a great cloud of witnesses. What happened to them? Thank you, Brother Katrupi.
Well, it's recounting about these faithful men, including Enoch, and it says there, in faith all these died, although they did not receive the fulfillment of the promises. So it's clearly stating that Enoch died.
Thank you, yes. So, yeah, it's good to have these answers. So that was our Dig Deeper. And now we're going to look at the section Reflect on the Lessons. And if we could just have our AV, brothers, could we have our next picture up? Thank you. So our first question on Reflect on the Lessons, when might we especially need courage to preach? Based on Enoch's example, what can help us? So the first one, when might we especially need courage to preach? Thank you, Brother Arias.
Yeah, so we see our brother with an invitation on his hand, and he's about to approach one of his colleagues to work, and perhaps at work that colleague might have disclosed something to him, and the brother feels that it's a great opportunity to invite him. So that could take a lot of courage so as to do, as you don't know how we might end up and what might happen next at work.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Simone.
Just adding to Brother George's comment, we can see there's two individuals in the back there, and we don't know what they're going to start thinking in their minds once a conversation starts between this brother and the person that is about to receive that invitation. But there could be ridicule that will come from this. Often in the workplace, there's that crowd mentality, and there can be a little bit of peer pressure and some hurtful things being said. So our brother is showing real courage in approaching this individual and giving him the invitation, because he doesn't know what the outcome's going to be.
Thank you. Yes, the person he's going to approach, they don't have a smile on their face, do they? And the next part of that question, it asks, based on Enoch's example, what can help us? Thank you, our sister towards the back.
Like Enoch, we need to have strong faith and unbreakable courage, knowing that Jehovah is with us.
Thank you. Thank you for your fine comment there. And moving along to our next question, and reflect on the lessons, it asks, how does Jehovah feel when we walk courageously with him? Thank you, Sister Labraga.
Proverbs 27:11 helps us to find the answer to that question. It says, "Be wise, my son, and make my heart rejoice, so that I can make a reply to him who taunts me." So when we are courageous and we walk with Jehovah, his heart rejoices.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Katribi.
Yeah, we see from the example of Enoch that before he died, Jehovah made it clear that he was pleased with Enoch, and it says he received the witness that he'd pleased God well. So it's interesting, Jehovah doesn't expect us to do his will and not in some way show us that he is pleased with us, so we can have confidence that we will make Jehovah's heart rejoice when we do these things in his name, and he will make that evident to us. So that could have a really nice outcome, which will be a blessing.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Jericho.
And also Hebrews 11:5 says that Enoch received the witness that he had pleased God so well. So when we courageously stand for Jehovah, it genuinely gladdens him and pleases him.
Thank you, Brother Ibanez. And let's look at our next question. It's asked, how might you imitate Enoch's courage in your life? Thank you, Sister Hart.
Enoch's example assures us that we too can have a strong friendship with Jehovah by putting faith in him.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Simone.
Yeah, it was an interesting question, this one, because I really had to think about it. Like, what can I do to show that my faith is in Jehovah and that I can imitate Enoch's courage? And one area is at the ministry, particularly with aspects of the ministry that I'm perhaps not comfortable with or haven't had experience in as much. So public witnessing, even incidental, or not incidental, we don't call it that anymore, do we? But anyway, when we're witnessing to folks that we come across where informally we have to introduce the good news. And having the suggestions from our brothers has really helped me as far as baiting the householder, getting them interested in the topic, and then trying to naturally introduce the truth. But in all of those instances, and I think it harks back to what was said earlier, I've never felt that I felt as though I took it personally when the person didn't accept the good news. In fact, it made me think more about how Jehovah might feel about them and how the message was actually conveyed to the householder, not how I felt. So you can imagine that's exactly how Enoch would have felt, that he pleased Jehovah well. He would have got that sense of accomplishment and that sense of fulfillment by knowing that he did something that was out of his comfort zone for sure, but that he received Jehovah's blessing for it.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Nicholson.
I really love, like in the actual account of Enoch's life in Genesis 5, it's hardly anything. But I think one of the key things that I learned from is Enoch kept walking with a true God. And then in Hebrews, we see the outcome. So the key is we're all just walking with the true God, trying to do our best. And so for me, just to keep on doing it, no matter how long we've been doing it, just keep on doing it, knowing Jehovah's happy and feeling that approval and blessing.
Thank you. And let's move along now to our last section, meditate on the bigger picture. And the first question asks, what does this account teach me about Jehovah? Thank you, Sister Arias.
Well, it shows me that Jehovah appreciates our efforts when we serve him under good and difficult situations, and he knows our limits and will provide us protection like he did for Enoch.
Thank you. Thank you for your fine comment. And our next question asks, how does this account tie in with Jehovah's purposes? Thank you, Sister Cox.
I was thinking about our preaching work. If we look at Enoch's example, his message was not a peaceful one. In fact, this message put his life in danger, yet he still continued to preach about what God had spoken to people courageously. And today we also have a message to declare, and doing so takes courage. God's purpose is that others come to an accurate knowledge of him and know of the wonderful, reliable future blessings we can enjoy. So when we show courage like Enoch did, we're able to be directly involved in what God purposes for mankind.
Thank you. And Sister Mariz, please.
Enoch's prophecy that Jehovah would come with his holy myriads to execute judgment against the ungodly, it points forward to God's larger purpose of clearing the earth of wickedness, and this is worded in past tense, so it underscored how certain that judgment is.
Thank you. And Sister Kreider?
And Enoch did not live as long as many of his contemporaries. Still, his hope was not in that world. He had his eyes fixed on something more grander. Today, true Christians do not use this world to the full. Rather, our eyes is fixed on the fulfillment of Jehovah's purpose, and we give our strength and resources primarily in Jehovah's service.
Thank you. And our final question asks, from the Meditate on the Bigger Picture section, what would I like to ask Enoch in the resurrection? Thank you, Sister Cox.
Well, an interesting part of what we discussed about his life was the scripture where it mentioned he was transferred by God, but it says before he was transferred, he received the witness that he had pleased God well. So something I'd want to ask Enoch was exactly what and how Jehovah revealed his deep love and approval before this took place, and then how that really truly made him feel, despite all of the persecution that he had suffered, and how that would have pushed him to feel Jehovah's love before he was transferred.
Thank you. And thank you, Brother Arias.
Been mentioned before, but I'd like to know whether he had the opportunity to speak to Adam and Eve, and what questions did he ask in relation to how they felt about their actions and where the human race was now at that stage.
Yes, good questions, aren't they? That we'd like to ask. And Sister Lubraga, please.
The Bible mentions that he had many daughters and sons, and one of them was Methuselah, which we know it was one of the people that preceded Jesus. So he wouldn't have known this, but at the same time, he would have made a lot of effort to bring them up, walking with Jehovah also. So knowing in the times that he lived in, I would want to know as a parent, how was it that he was able to maintain his family as worshippers of Jehovah?
Thank you. Yes, good questions. Well, let's conclude our study there. Now, there's only a few words in the Bible about Enoch, but think about how much we've learnt tonight, and what so much more we've learnt about his example, and how we can apply his example in our lives. So we'll conclude now. We'll hand back to our chairman.
Thank you very much, Brother Gary, for guiding us through that. And there's lots of beautiful comments. We got a little bit of time. So is there anything particular in the meeting that you'll take away has touched your heart, or something you'd like to share from tonight? Brother Arias went.
Yeah, I guess one of the things we're heavily involved is preaching the good news, and just that reminder about being adaptable, in that, the introduction we use in one door probably is not going to be the same in the next door. So it's probably about doing more preparation in order to be ready to be flexible according to the people that we meet in our territory.
Yeah, very good. That's very true. Lovely. Thanks, Brother Simone.
As a parent, you love to see a surprised look on your child's face. It's almost like you fooled them. And Jehovah fools us as well. And I love that experience, going through life and being fooled by Jehovah, because it's a beneficial feeling. It's something that produces a really warm, fuzzy feeling inside, that Jehovah loves us and he wants the best for us.
Thank you, Brother Steve. Yeah, very true. Sister Cox?
Yeah, from the treasures from God's word about being a bold preacher for Jeremiah. I like the point that being bold doesn't mean we don't have fear, but it's that our love and our faith in God is stronger than our fear.
Lovely. Yeah, it was a nice point, that. Excellent. Very good. I won't share my gem from the highlights. I'll make it homework. There was a gem that showed that it would be a heavenly kingdom. Did you pick up on that? If you find it, you can come and show me. There you go. Don't you hate me? I gave you homework. We've already prepared for the meeting. Okay, so I actually just for next week, so a couple of lovely things to look out for next week. The importance of good shepherds, and it sort of ties in with another part on the meeting on unity. That unity is so important, so we can look forward to those parts next week. So now we can close our meeting with Song 31, I Walk with God, and then Brother Galia will close in prayer for us. So that's Song 31, Walk with God.